Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at the second annual Eco-Canada Virtual Career Fair. We'll just wait a couple minutes while everyone starts to join the webinar before we get started. Hi, everyone. If you're just joining in now, we're just waiting a couple minutes for everyone to arrive before we start the webinar. So thank you so much for joining. All right, so we'll get started. So hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm so excited about this panel discussion today about environmental career journeys and the many different career paths and opportunities available in this sector. We are so lucky to have three established environmental professionals on the panel today who will be sharing their unique experiences and some insights and tips for anyone looking to break into the environmental sector. So before we begin today's presentation, I would like to take a moment to recognize the traditional Indigenous lands where Eco-Canada's office is based in Calgary. At Eco-Canada, we are committed to working towards respectful acknowledgement, collaboration, and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples across Canada. This starts with acknowledging our honor and privilege to live and work within the Treaty 7 territory. Today, we are presenting from the city of Calgary, home of the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. We would also like to take this time to acknowledge the traditional territories and oral practices of the Niitsitapi, home of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina and the Stoney Nakoda, which include Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. Eco-Canada is committed to increasing the participation of Indigenous talent in the environmental sector through our BEAR training programs. The BEAR guiding principles are centered around respect and acknowledgement of Indigenous peoples' cultures, histories, legal status, and relationship to their land. So my name is Talia Moser. I work on the training and events team here at Eco-Canada, and I will be moderating this webinar. So I just have a few quick housekeeping notes. First, all attendees are muted for the duration of the webinar. So if you have any technical issues, please send a message to me in the chat box. You can just directly message me and I will do my best to help resolve the issue. Connectivity issues can often be fixed simply by leaving the webinar and coming back. So I recommend giving that a try first if you're experiencing any troubles. This presentation will be available on demand for 30 days after the event ends. So you can access it here on the BEARS platform, just using the registration that you used to join the event today. And finally, at the end of today's session, we have about 15 minutes dedicated to questions. So if you have any questions throughout the discussion today, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen to submit your questions, and we will get to them at the end of the webinar. So now just a little bit about Eco-Canada and what we do here. So while I talk about that, I would love to know where everyone is joining from today. So if you could please select your location on this poll here on the screen and let us know where you're joining from. That would be awesome. So Eco-Canada's vision is to build the world's leading environmental workforce. So Eco-Canada is the steward for the Canadian environmental workforce across all industries, and we seek to help environmental workers succeed at each step of their career journey. We not only train and certify professionals, but we also help to identify and address labor market gaps. So we really champion the end-to-end career of environmental professionals. Our efforts promote and drive responsible and sustainable economic growth to ensure that environmental care and best practice is a priority. So just take a look at this poll. We have people from BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, Yukon, amazing. So kind of all across Canada. That's awesome. Thank you all for joining us. So now I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsor for this session, which is Trace Associates. Trace Associates is a professional services firm specializing in environmental science and engineering advisory. So today we are joined by Lois Miller. She is the Director of Marketing at Trace, and she will quickly introduce the session and tell you more about Trace. So I'll hand it over to you, Lois.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Talia. It's great to be here with you today. It's always a pleasure for us to work with Eco Canada. You all do such a great job in helping people secure employment. So it's always our pleasure to be here. You can flip the slide. So I'm joining from Treaty 6 territory, that's traditional lands of Cree, Métis, the Ojibwe, Nakota, and Dakota peoples. And I'm based out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. You can flip to the next slide. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Director of Strategy at Trace Associates. So we've been in business since 2006. We're an employee-owned company, so it's always, for me as a partner, it's always exciting to be able to help build the business when you're also an owner. So that's one of the great things about Trace. So we do environmental consulting and environmental engineering, as well as emergency management, but really, and I'll just ask you to flip the slide, Talia, our purpose is to help people have a great life. And so when you look at our locations here, many of our locations started because that's where we wanted to work. So for example, I'm from Saskatoon, and so I started the office here, which is a great way to be able to do this. You can flip to the next slide, Talia. So we are just over 100 people, and we work in remediation, reclamation. We do some natural sciences work. Sustainability is a large part of our growing business, as well as emergency management. And if you flip to the last slide, Talia, if you're interested in chatting with us, please come and see us at our booth. We're at Trace Associates. You can check us out there, or you can go to our website here and you can learn more about us there. Thank you very much, Talia, and I look forward to hearing from all of the panelists today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lois, for telling us more about Trace. So as Lois mentioned, Trace does have a booth here today at the virtual career fair. So I encourage all of you to stop by and learn more about them and the opportunities they have available after this webinar. So I'm now going to hand it over to Brendan Stephen. Brendan is a business development representative here at Eco Canada, and he will be leading our panel discussion today. So over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Talia. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We have three excellent panelists as well that we're going to chat about here a little bit, just to get to know a bit more about their career journeys and how you kind of emulate that as well with their success in the environmental field. So we know at Eco Canada it can be difficult when you're starting out your career or transitioning to a new role or sector. It can feel very daunting, with job seekers often struggling to see a clear path. So today's panel features three environmental professionals who have been there before and who've gone on to have fantastic careers. So with that, I will introduce our three panelists, and I'll let them kind of tell about or explain their first career steps and how they got to where they are now too. So first we have Laura Amos Terpstra. Laura works for the environmental project manager with Parsons. And then we have Liz Waterfield. Liz is an environmental scientist and project manager at Stantec. And then we have Harry Pema. Harry works with, environmental and social risk management advisor at Export Development Canada. So Liz, if you could start us off first, that would be awesome, and just give us a brief overview of your career journey.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brendan, and everybody else so far, Tyla and Lewis as well. My name is Liz Waterfield. I'm calling from Kelowna, British Columbia, and I am a project manager and registered biology technologist at Stantec Consulting. So that can mean a lot of things in the world of environment. So my experience is mainly around provincial and federal regulatory applications and permitting, environmental assessment, construction management, and then of course, project management. Done a lot of field tasks throughout my career, but as of late, I've really transitioned more into that office role and sort of that mentorship and delegation to junior staff, which is really where I've learned about Eco Canada and how I had the opportunity to collaborate with them through their intern and co-op program. I have a huge passion for the environment, but I'd say one of my favorite things is really getting to mentor my team. Yeah.
Right on. No, that's very interesting. How many mentorees or people in the co-op wayfinding program do you guys have?
Within Stantec, I actually am not sure our total number. We're fairly large throughout Canada, but in Kelowna, we have 3 right now.
Right on.
Yeah.
Laura, what about yourself? Could you please give us a bit of a background on yourself there?
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm Laura Amos Terpstra. I'm a project manager with Parsons, and I am based in Calgary. I basically started my career journey out of university just with whatever job I could find, because that was when the economy had crashed starting in 2008. And I got hired with a small environmental consulting firm called O'Connor Associates Environmental Inc. as a professional assistant and a technical assistant. And it turns out I was just really good at the work, and the people there were just really amazing. So they all kind of took turns mentoring me and teaching me how to not only write reports, but to start coordinating the project to eventually being able to manage some of the projects on my own. So today, as a project manager, I oversee several different phase 1, phase 2 projects, long-term monitoring projects, as well as remediation projects and risk management projects. I spend a lot of time these days mentoring junior staff, as well as working collaboratively with everyone else. About 2012 was when Parsons had purchased O'Connor Associates, and so that's why I'm now under the Parsons banner.
Right on. Thank you so much. Harry, what about yourself?
Hey everyone, thanks to Eco Canada. It's always a pleasure to be part of Eco Canada's events. My name is Hari Pema. I'm based out of Ottawa. I currently work as an environmental and social risk management advisor with Export Development Canada. I have a background in engineering. I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and I have a master's in chemical. And I have close to 10 years experience working in ESG advisory for large-scale infrastructure projects, as well as in the extractive industry, mining, oil and gas. Prior to joining my current role with EDC in 2019, I used to be an engineering consultant. I worked across Alberta, British Columbia, and prior to moving to Canada, I used to work in the Middle East. I worked across different aspects of the environmental industry, right from taking methane measurements in an oil and gas field, then to strategic advisory on climate change. And now I work with a financial institution advising on non-credit risks.
Perfect. Right on. No, thank you so much, everybody. So we are just going to kind of have some questions here. So I'll kind of pose them to the group, and then if there's one you want to really jump on, feel free to jump in anywhere as well. But the first question I have for everybody is what really attracted you to the environmental sector? Why did you want to become an environmentalist, I guess, or work in the sector? Liz, do you want to take a stab at that first?
Sure, I can jump in first. Thanks, Brendan. You know what, it was in undergrad, and I thought I wanted to be an English major. I loved writing, and I thought that was great. And then I took a geography class, and I went for a hike in a lab and learned that I could write about my hike. And that is it. I realized that this is what, I didn't know this is where I'd be, but I realized this is what I want to do. I love the outside, and getting the opportunity to write about it was pretty special.
Right on.
I stumbled on it, to be honest.
No, totally. I think a lot of us in this sector kind of have that mentality where it happens too. Laura, what about yourself? What drove you to be an environmentalist?
When I was in university, I kind of thought I would go into politics or become a lawyer. So I also took some geography courses and just fell in love with like Earth system processes. And I found with many of my political science courses as well, they were related to environmental policy or water policy. And those are areas that also interest me very much. So when I was applying for jobs, I was looking for both either a political science job or a geography job out of school. And then being able to work in environmental consulting, it was just so great. I stayed. So I've really enjoyed my time here, and I love learning more about the environment, and didn't even realize coming out of university until I was talking to the Eco Canada program with their original certified environmental practitioner and training designations that there were so many really cool environmental jobs out there and that it was a growing industry. It's great to see that there is a lot more exposure to it because I know in university it wasn't something I'd ever heard of.
For sure. No, I think getting exposure to the new opportunities out there, that's why everyone's here today, obviously, as well. That's huge, and it's something that we're definitely trying to shine a light on for sure. What about you yourself, Harry?
I think I have a slightly different career path. So I used to be a petrol head. I was a mechanical engineer. I wanted to be part of the racing division of, say, a German auto manufacturer and race cars and tune them. And then I think it was my energy systems professor who introduced me to this documentary, An Inconvenient Truth. And it was definitely a lot of inconvenience because I completely pivoted after that movie. It inspired me, and also on the way, it helped me to discover my passion that I want to be part of this low carbon transition and to be part of tackling climate change and the bigger energy issues. So that's how I got into the sector. And then I worked with a lot of geologists, fortunately, on the way, and biologists, ecologists, and they're my favorite people. I actually
Right
like
on.
geologists more than engineers.
Yeah, that's a big 180 for yourself then too, to from a petrol head to that. So that's Al Gore's movie, An Inconvenient Truth, right?
Yes, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, totally. No, I've definitely read it or heard about it as well too. Right on. What is your favorite part of your job, and what do you find most challenging? Is I imagine it's out working in the field. That's obviously a really awesome part of being an environmentalist, but also getting to manage a lot of people that you guys do. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think for me, my favorite part of my job is I thought it would be the environment, and obviously being in the field, it's pretty awesome. You get to meet some really great people and learn some really interesting things. I actually really love working with clients. I really do like that face-to-face time. And I think that's, we talked about this earlier in the training session that we had was, I'm an extrovert. So I still get to do all the things that I like. I get to write, but then I also still get that face time.
No, right
Growing
on.
businesses, yeah.
Yeah, I think growing businesses and being part of that kind of growing sector is really nice as well. Like we kind of talked about with Harry there, that it is a growing sector and it's a growing industry too.
Yeah.
And there's lots of opportunity, right, to see it skyrocket off. So
yeah, agreed. I think that people coming out of university right now, it's a great time. There's a lot of work. I think when I started, it was hard to get in. Like Laura was saying too, I Googled, what do I do with my geography degree? I knew I loved this, but I had no idea what I wanted to do after.
Yeah, totally. Now we kind of talked about that. You were Googling to find out how, like, what you're supposed to do afterwards. How did you guys kind of learn about your career options besides Google, I guess? Did you have anybody that you could talk to, or a mentorship program that way, or anybody else? Laura, what about yourself? You can jump in with that one.
I had a couple of geography professors that had mentioned a couple of different career paths that I'd look into. One of the first things I had considered was actually meteorology, because I had taken a lot of weather and climate courses. And when I was working just in retail at a Shoppers Drug Mart, one of the local weather personalities would often come into the store. And so like I asked him, like, what's there for new grads in, meteorology? And then it was just more talking to people around me where I started to learn more about like environmental consulting and that as a potential career path.
Right on. I know for Harry's was the 180 that we talked about earlier as well. For Liz, did you do anything else besides Googling as well that you kind of found for that too, or?
Yes, so I am extremely blessed that I had a family member that was working with Stantec, a sister-in-law. So yeah, I was introduced to the world to her kind of incidentally. I was actually babysitting for them. And she's like, is this what you want to do? My brother is a bit older than me, so he's going to get mad. He might be listening. But yeah, it was just like, oh, you should just come try this out. And I started as a project coordinator, and I was just doing logistics for a large pipeline route and access and some of the accessing areas and coordinating helicopters. And I used my geography degree, which was pretty amazing.
Right on. No, it's nice to actually use the skills that you went to university for and learned there for sure. That's huge. But there's also a lot of skills you learn after once you graduate and you kind of find your first career path. What skills, I guess, would you guys say are the most important or that you have learned after university that you've learned on the job or anything like certificate skills that way? Harry, what do you think for that one?
I think that the biggest skill set anyone can bring in, especially into an environmental career or a sustainability career path they're in, would be curiosity. I think the rate
Okay.
at which the whole ESG industry is changing these days is just overwhelming. You have more reports, more webinars coming out than you can probably process in a single year. I think I'm still going through 2020 June documents. And this is what I do every day in my life. So I think curiosity and having the flexibility to learn and adapt and pivot to changing market requirements, I think would be the key. And I think that's one skill set. You could be a geologist and you could end up being the sustainability head for a large oil and gas company in 10 years' time. So you never really know. I think for a recent textile company, I think it's H&M. I think it was someone who was a part of the management team and was a sustainability officer, ended up being the CEO. So you could be working on supply chain related sustainability issues and better sourcing practices and end up actually leading a business. So having that curiosity and being flexible to learn and keep on learning. Learning doesn't stop once you graduate. It actually becomes 10 times more once you're on the job. And I think that's the attitude that'll make a huge difference in your career.
For sure. And I think I love that answer, as Angelina said in the chat there. That's a very good one. I think really being passionate about what you do and really jumping into it with both feet. If you don't have that, then yeah, you're not going to last a long time in that industry for sure, no matter what industry you're in, for sure. Liz, Laura, do you have anything to add on to that too?
I never realized just how much accounting I would be doing in my job. Like all the budgeting and budget tracking, especially when you have such a complex site where every time you get information in from the field, things are changing. You're having to update your budget and everything else. So being able to keep track of it all, being able to keep track of all your invoices so that everything gets billed on time and whatnot. I wish I had the opportunity to take some accounting and business courses in university, because I think that would have been very useful.
Right on. So math is useful, is what we've learned as well from high school. We are going to use that in the future. But no, I totally agree. Being well-rounded and balanced, kind of a jack of all trades, to be able to kind of be flexible and use all of our different skills, I think it's very important too. Liz, do you have anything to add on to that too?
Yeah, I think those are both really great answers. Harry's, yours was pretty beautiful. I think the biggest thing, it looks like we're all here, but we've made it this far, but we all had to try different things and say yes to some stuff. I always thought I was going to be really focused in vegetation, and totally ended up where I'm much more focused on water and fish and aquatics. I mean, my last name is Waterfield. You think I would have landed there quickly, but it took a while. I think it's just take chances on things. There are some things I've done in this career that I'm like, actually, you know what, that wasn't for me. I tried it. I had great mentors who managed, I stumbled my way through it, but I think it's really saying yes to opportunities and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. You never know what you're going to like.
Totally. I think that's a really good point, that you have to jump at the opportunities that you're given to and not just wait for the perfect situation. And then you'll understand, or you'll figure out what you don't like and what maybe doesn't work for you and what really does, right? What you never would have thought would. So that's a great point. What advice would you guys give to everybody here now that's just kind of starting their career? Is there a specific kind of form of advice you'd give them out?
I think that if there are particular companies or particular fields of work that they're interested in, they should reach out to some of the people already working in that and do just informational interviews. So if you're interested in like water resource planning, find a water resource planner and just invite them out for coffee. See if they can, or even just do like a video call with you to kind of talk about their career, and then see if that's something that interests you, or whatever you're interested in. Informational interviews would be a great way to learn more about the job and what actually goes on than what you just see on job postings.
No, I think that's a really, really great point, to actually get a firsthand look into what the job that you would be doing, what's the day-to-day looking like as well. With our EP program, where you get a mentor in that same kind of field that you're going to be in the future, that's a huge advantage. So you can kind of be matched up with somebody in Ontario and do a Zoom call or something like that as well, if you're in BC, for example, and be able to talk to them about what's the day-to-day going to look like as well. So even if you don't know anybody, we can definitely help you find somebody that's in that organization or that same lane that you want to be into. What do you think, Liz? What advice would you give to the next generation following up here?
Oh, so much. But I think the biggest one I would say is mentor and be mentored. there's still so much to learn. I know people in this industry who are about to retire and they're still learning new things, and they're still, having somebody to mentor them and give back and mentor. And like I said earlier, it's one of my favorite parts of my job. A few of them are actually listening in right now and they know who they are, but I've learned a lot from them too.
For sure. It's a great point. Harry, do you have anything you want to kind of add on for that as well?
I would say that I'd be jealous of any newcomers getting into the sector now, because I think this is the golden age for environmental professionals. I think 10 years back when I started, the demand was not the same. So be confident, get yourself out there. A lot of companies need good ESG professionals and environmental professionals, and connect with successful professionals on LinkedIn. I found all my jobs on LinkedIn. I met people at Eco Canada conferences. I connected with other EPs and went through the same approach what Laura was mentioning, that reach out to them for informational interviews and check their LinkedIn profiles, what their career progression is, meet with them, and then apply to the right jobs. Keep networking.
Yeah, I think networking is such a huge part, especially when the environmental industry is just kind of starting to explode and get a lot larger. Really having those connections with different people around the country in different areas that you're going to be working into is extremely important to help kind of push it forward. And same on the mentoring part. I recently started mentoring as well with a mentor, someone who's mentoring me. And I really love it. It just gives more learning opportunities throughout the week and a different perspective that you wouldn't really expect. So definitely a valuable thing to participate in for sure. Sorry, I'm just losing my voice a bit. So what skills would you suggest for entry-level workers? So I know a couple of you manage new hires, new workers. What skills are you kind of seeing that are needed that maybe they don't have at this point, or maybe they're a bit rough at? Laura, Liz, Harry, do you have any kind of thoughts on there?
I think collaboration skills. So much of school and university is, competing for the top grades and everything else. There's projects you have to collaborate on, but it's always competition. Whereas once you're working in the field, collaboration is so important. Often on complicated sites, you're working with the technical team, you're working with other project managers, you're working with engineers, geologists, you're working with people all across it. You got to work with clients, stakeholders, the general public. You got to work with your field staff, and you have to be able to trust everyone to do their job the way that it needs to be done. And so being able to collaborate instead of compete with everyone is kind of difficult when people are first starting out. They have been taught for so long, you have to climb that corporate ladder, but really you have to work with everyone, and you have to train the people to come after you to be better than you are, so that you can move on to other things.
For sure. I think that's such a good point. It's such a team environment, and communication, being able to say exactly what you need and understand what other people need as well, is such an important thing. Liz, Harry?
Yeah, for sure. So I think obviously you really want somebody to be a team player. You want them keen to learn. I think it's also just really looking for somebody who has some of those safety skills. If you're looking for, things that you can really work on after school, there's occupational first aid, or, find certifications that could benefit you in that career. Look at the job postings and see what's listed. Those are really going to help you, and they're going to put you ahead of that competitive ad, because those entry-level positions can be difficult. As far as personality, be keen, be excited, be collaborative and supportive. And really give that mentor and that project manager some time. They're doing their best to respond to you. And I think sometimes it's like, I feel like bad. I'm not always super instant, and I'm trying to get back with them really quickly, but ask really clear questions. Give them the tools to teach you too. I think that's part of it too, is that managing upwards as well. It's, asking precise questions, and then also doing what you can to fill your toolbox.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's great.
Yeah, those are great responses. Just quickly to add to what Liz and Dora were mentioning, I think if someone is trying to break into the sector, wants to differentiate themselves, I would suggest that they have a certification or a specific skill set with regards to managing large sets of data. So whether you're an ecologist, you're a geologist, you could be a sustainability emissions management advisor. I think one thing that's really going to differentiate your profile with the rest of the 100 other applications would be data skills. get yourself familiar with spreadsheets, Excel tools, maybe even some programming if you can do it. That's one way. It's slightly technical, but I think it can definitely help your profile to stand out. Another key aspect is try relating to the company's own sustainability or environmental journey. So if you're going to approach to a prospective employer, I would say research a bit about their own sustainability journey, what risks and challenges they're facing, and probably suggest an approach that you think might work for them. I think that can help demonstrate that you've done your background research and you're really passionate about working for this company and you're coming up with some solutions even before you started working there. So those are a few tactics I would suggest.
No, I think that totally makes sense. Those technical skills would definitely help, and it's a lifelong journey in learning as well. So like Liz said, with like a first aid or a safety course, anything you can do to kind of put your resume on top of the stack as well, I think that really helps. Just in showing that you have the attitude where you want to continue learning and continue growing that way, I think is super important. Now we're still kind of in lockdown, depending on what kind of province you're in, I guess, and where you live. I know the interior in Kelowna isn't doing so hot right now. How has COVID-19 affected your hiring and your business from an environmental standpoint? Has it been really harsh on you guys in particular? Has it been pretty kind of steady as you goes, or how's that been?
Well, it has pretty much been business as usual, at least here in Alberta. The only thing that has been difficult for our company is we have a lot of sites in the territories, and when there was the travel restrictions and more of the lockdowns and whatnot, it was very difficult for us to be able to get out to our sites to do our work when we normally do them, especially when you're dealing with the northern latitudes. Your season where you're able to do some of your work is very short. And so not being able to get out there and having to go through all of those challenges affected the work in a pretty major way. But for the most part, with the rest of our work, especially in Alberta, we just adapted safety programs and safety protocols to around COVID-19 and trained our staff on social distancing, seeing if we can minimize the amount of people that have to be on site and still be able to complete the work safely, or to see if there are different times of year where we could go when maybe numbers are lower, or working with whatever jurisdictions we're going to be working in and the protocols that they have in place.
Right on. So being able to be flexible and kind of roll with the punches as you go, that's I agree is extremely important too. What about Liz? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so it's definitely been business as usual for us, similar to what Laura had said. On that note, I really do have to applaud Stantec's leadership. I can only imagine the work on their end, on what they had to do to create these protocols, to do all of these things, which we were able to follow and keep up with provincial guidance. And sometimes we are traveling interprovincially, so training our project managers too on how to sort of research that information and how do we engage interprovincially and regionally too. So it has been business as usual, but I know that our leadership, if they're on right now, you've been hustling, and we definitely acknowledge that. We have hired Kelowna, especially. We're a really good location for a lot of our projects, and we were not really a huge office. I want to say our environmental team is nearly doubled in Kelowna, which probably is 10 to 20. But it is a significant movement towards the interior, and I think that's part of the millennials wanting to come and live somewhere. Also, our real estate has boomed, so it's not just Stantec that's doing this. But yeah, we're locally seeing a big difference. I can't speak for all of Stantec, obviously, it's huge, but yeah, locally hiring a lot more, and there's quite a few projects.
I think with the work from home a little bit more now as well, that you're seeing a lot more people migrate away from the big centers, the big cities, because they can work remotely, work from their home office and kind of make that work too. So they don't need to be in Vancouver, our larger center anymore. So
yeah, and it seems to be a really popular transition to come to Kelowna. It's a little bit of a smaller urban center, and we have the beach, which I guess I'm biased, but that's what I want.
No, that's fair. And you have plus 40 days where it's a little bit too hot, I'd say, but it's not too bad.
47 degrees was too hot this
year. Yeah, no, I believe that. Yeah. All BC felt that. What about you, Harry? What would you say?
I think in COVID, it's not business as usual for us. We've been way busier than usual, at least 2 times to 3 times more work. And I think it's because as Export Development Canada's mandate, where we try to help Canadian companies to export and grow in international markets. Due to COVID, we were extending support to all Canadian companies. So that meant more transactional due diligence for us. But one challenge that has been is to carry out due diligence remotely. As an environmental professional, you want to take a flight, get to the site, and get a feel for it, because you're trying to see the direction of the stream flow, you're trying to look at the vegetation around, you're trying to see the health and safety standards that are being implemented at a site. But just going virtual, and I think we've taken a blanket decision at the leadership level that employees will not be traveling due to the pandemic. So we had to pivot to using remote due diligence, like using drones, and we'd be looking at a site in Indonesia, but we're in an office in Ottawa and looking at this footage. So those were really tricky ones to navigate, where you had to develop procedures to operate in this virtual environment, and then to rely on third parties and without anyone traveling. So things did get impacted, but I think technology did come in handy, and we've all pivoted to the virtual environment. So that's where the key data part again, anyone young, please make sure you have the data skills as well as familiarity with all these drone technology and virtual assessments. Things have changed so much in the past 2 years.
For sure. Similar to what Laura said, you have to be able to be flexible and to move on and be able to pivot when you need to. Now, for new employees that are looking for positions in, say, your companies, what can someone do to differentiate themselves from everyone else in the stack, I guess? What would that look like?
I think that there are a lot of situations like this. I've attended a few of these career fairs just sort of locally with UBCO, and I always give out my card, and I'm always amazed the amount of, there's very little follow-up. And I would say when you meet somebody and if they give you their contact information, building on what Laura said earlier, shoot them a note, ask them to go for coffee. I think I've hired, last time I went to a career fair, it was 2 days before pandemic lockdown. So, but we did hire, myself and my colleague Saskia and I both hired somebody from that event. So they followed up and they asked us for coffee, which we couldn't go on, but we did have a virtual meeting after. They're both with us and they're full-time staff, and they were, one of which was funded through Eco Canada.
Perfect. Awesome. That's what we love to hear. Laura, what would you say? What kind of differentiates someone from everyone else when you're looking to add someone else to your team?
I know through some of our hiring practices, when we're looking for like new technical assistants and whatnot, we're looking more about personality. And so it matters what you put on your resume for like what your interests are and what your other things. We hired one girl because she plays hockey. And one of the things that stood up for me when I got hired was I was a ballroom dance instructor while I was in university. So the things that set you apart are, it's hit and miss, but it's your interest areas and how they align with whoever's doing the hiring.
Yeah, for sure. And showing that you'd be more of a team player, that you have something interesting to kind of go off of and chat about as well. No, I like that. Harry, I know that definitely that what's really important is not only the technical side and knowing the GIS and everything that you're talking about, the data analytics. What else are you kind of looking for in a new hire?
I've some really basic advice. I think if someone's trying to get a job, always include a cover letter. And I think if we receive like 100 applicants, I think the percentage of applicants with a cover letter would be less than 10%. Maybe it's different in other sectors. I think that's an easy way to differentiate yourself. And I'll tell you a short story on how I ended up at Export Development Canada. I connected with my colleague on LinkedIn. She was not hiring, but then she did mention the key skills they were looking for. So I have close to 8 years experience at that point in time. So I was able to tailor my resume and my cover letter specific to the needs, what they were looking for, so that I'm more attractive. And luckily I got screened and then I interviewed and I made it through the company. So I think having those networking conversations, going for those coffee chats, informational interviews, and including a cover letter would be easy ways to score yourself an interview. And then it's up to you. You're down from 1 in 100 to 1 in 3.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It's making something customized is definitely going to help your score as well in putting up a bit further for sure. I know a lot of companies use a different scoring method when it's just a piece of paper and you don't get the chance to make a first impression, and you want to give the best kind of impression as possible there. So anything customized, personalized you can do, you definitely want to do for that as well. Now, lastly, our last question before we just jump on to some questions from the chat. If you could go back into the beginning of your career journey, is there anything that you would do differently? Is there anything that you would change to kind of move around? What would you think with that? Here, Liz, you can start us off there.
Like, what would I do differently? You know what I would be? I would just not be as hard on myself. I think I've pushed myself so hard through my career, and I've hustled, and any small mistake I've ever made, it's not the end of the world. You have, that's why you have mentors. We have quality reviewers. You have senior staff to support you, and just be kind to yourself through this process. We're all learning.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great point. Laura, what are you thinking? Is there anything that you would change or tell your younger self?
I think I would have told myself to try harder to get into the earth sciences program or the environmental sciences program in university. Just doing my geography degree, obviously, it's harder to get the recognized designations, especially in Alberta, to have signing authority on environmental reports. So now I'm looking at going back to school to get my professional hydrology designation. But I could have saved myself the trouble if I would have just tried harder to get into a couple different programs in university.
Okay, no, that's a really good point as well. Harry?
That's a good question. I don't think I've changed anything in terms of my journey. I think I've spent 10 years across different sectors. Probably I'd spend longer time being in the field. I really miss being in the field, and being in an oil and gas field, that's something which I definitely miss. But I think probably I would have got an internship or some kind of a research expedition to Antarctica. That's still on my bucket list. I think that's one thing which I would do. Probably volunteer more and be part of initiatives across the world and demonstrated that in my resume. I think that's one thing which is something which I definitely go back, be part of more NGOs or voluntary initiatives.
Right, on something you're a bit more passionate about that you want to affect change and do, for sure. I think that's awesome. Cool. With that, we will get Talia back in here, and she'll ask some questions from the chat. So if you have any more questions that you want us to answer, or our specialist to answer here, please feel free to ask in the chat here as well. Thanks for coming back as well, Lois. We'll get you to answer any that you want to feel like jumping in. Go for it. So go ahead, Talia.
Sure. So yeah, if anyone has any questions now, pop them into that Q&A chat function that we have here on Zoom. So we have a couple questions about transitioning to the environmental field from other fields. So specifically for someone who's kind of interested in getting into writing articles on environmental policy who doesn't have an environmental background, what kind of steps could you recommend, or programs that they could take that would increase their chances of getting a role like that? Anyone can jump in. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, there's actually a great program at the Banff School of Writing that is for technical writing for scientists. I've had some friends who've gone through it. They've done really well, but that has been a great program where if you want to write technical articles, they have a whole program for that. So that would be one thing I'd recommend.
Amazing.
Sure.
Thank you, Lois.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Lois, as well. Eco Canada also has technical writing workshops that focus on being able to write clearly and concisely, which is really important as well. So it's for anybody to be able to understand exactly what you're talking about. So I think that's another good opportunity to jump into as well. Go ahead, Liz.
There's also Royal Roads has been a phenomenal. I'm actually in the master's degree program at Royal Roads right now, and they have some really great courses as well there. And I think you could probably, if you have an undergraduate degree, you could do a master's in environmental management. And my writing since starting this program has just changed dramatically. So there's an option there too, and it is virtually, or there's options for combined with campus in a non-pandemic world.
Right on. Hopefully change dramatically for the better.
Yeah.
But no, that's great.
Yes, it has for the better, for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, we actually just had a webinar also with Royal Roads. So if anyone watching missed that, it will be live, on demand for the next 30 days on BeFair. So definitely check that out if you're interested in Royal Roads. Okay, some other questions. So for someone who's coming internationally, who has the academic education, but doesn't have any connections and any experience in Canada, do you have any advice for them to go about finding a job in Canada when they don't really know where to start?
I can take this one because I went through the process in 2017 and it was an uphill task. It was not easy. So I'm not trying to overwhelm you here, but you need to network. I think you've made the right decision by participating in this webinar. You have the first name and last name of all the speakers here. Reach out to us, connect with us, and I think you have 100 other participants along with you. Be on LinkedIn, network with as many people as you can. You'd be surprised to see how many people are there who are willing to help you. One strategy which I always used is reach out to 10 people, make sure you customize your emails or your messages to them, and do not be disappointed if you do not receive a response, because if you reach out to 10 people, you'd only receive a response from one of them. That's the reality. People are busy lives, they have their jobs, they have families to manage. So reach out to as many people as you can and do not give up. So I've known people who gave up in 3 months and completely pivoted their careers. I didn't give up for 11 months and I'm not doing too bad. So keep doing the hard work and finally you'd be able to figure it out, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any specific questions.
Thank you, Hari. Yeah, that's great advice.
I'm also an immigrant and did not have a network when I started here. So I get this question a lot, and I think to Hari's point, those really are important. I think the other piece that I always recommend is to work with Eco Canada. Eco Canada does such a great job of connecting people and hosting these kinds of events that allows you to network. The other piece I would recommend is that, for example, if you're a biologist, to become involved with the Professional Biologist Association in your area. Get involved, volunteer. There's always more work than there are people for those kinds of associations. And that gives everyone around you to see how you work and what your areas of expertise are. And the last piece that I always say, that if you are still in school, make sure that you get a co-op or some kind of internship, because that is how I worked my way into the work that I do today.
Awesome. Thank you, Lois. Liz, Laura, you have anything you want to add to that one? Or?
No, I think the big thing is like network, keep going out there, finding local groups. Volunteering is great. Yeah, if you find somebody willing to meet with you and have coffee with you, take them up on it.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. We have another interesting one here. Have any of you run into conflicts with your workplace related to a difference of opinion in an environmental issue, and how did you handle it?
It hasn't really been conflict within the workplace itself, but differences of opinion with clients or differences of opinion with regulators. Most recently, we were working with a client who wanted to change their methodology for air collecting soil vapor samples. We accommodated the client, but on one of our tricky sites, we stayed with our original methods because they had been tested and tried and true for collecting the soil vapor samples. And we did different methodology testing between the two different methods to show why we wanted to stay with our method, and using science and technology and data to get the clients on our side.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. We have so many great questions coming through. I'll try to get through all of them. So what digital platforms or softwares are you finding to be useful in this field, apart from Microsoft Office in general, and that focus on energy management and carbon management?
I don't really focus on energy or carbon, but if you're looking for technical programs to understand that may help you get ahead, obviously ArcGIS is a phenomenal program. You know, using Microsoft products, I think having a general tech understanding, I think, you know, I rely on my Gen Zs. They're great. They know how to do things. So I think there's definitely being aware of the technology that's coming out. There's some great apps coming out too.
For sure. I think that's such a broad question where it kind of encompasses a lot of different specific things you could be looking at. But having a thirst to learn about those different programs is really important. So you can jump on that for sure.
Okay, how do you keep your passion in pursuing your career?
I think that's where that mentor question comes in. I think I really look at when I'm in this great company that has so many people, and I look at them and their lifestyles and the opportunities that they have. And I just think, wow, I would really, really love to be in that position one day. So I'll talk to them and learn about, what they've done and how they've went about it. And I think it's right back down. It's always about networking. It seems to be where I circle back to, but it's those informational interviews and looking ahead. I think, you may get bored if you keep doing the same thing over and over again. So to keep the passion, I think you have to look ahead and constantly, find ways to evolve it.
Yeah, and I think to that point, in addition, Liz, is like you stay curious and make sure that when you're looking for a company, it's a company that encourages curiosity. We have a chart your own course here at Trace, and so we have folks who've started out in technical and then maybe went operational or vice versa. We have folks who just want to stay in the field. We have other folks who want to be field and then come into the office. And so really make sure you find a company where you can grow, right? And growth, one of the things we talk about Trace, oftentimes in society, we have this kind of idea that growth means this like ladder that you climb up this way. And we talk about ladders that may climb this way, but also maybe out. So we have technical professionals who are principals in their field, but they don't want anyone to report to them. Like they don't want to be in that manager role. And so sometimes when you talk about passion and creativity, there's this idea that your career progresses if you become a manager and then a director and then a VP and those kinds of things. And maybe that's who you are. But we find that lots of people want to take on responsibility, but not necessarily managerial responsibility. And so it's really important to find a company that can understand those differences and allow you to blossom where you want to shine.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And sort of building on that point as well is obviously looking within that company and within the roles available. And I think looking outwards too. I mean, for myself, I decided to join Roads. I decided to grow myself education and still keep that piece of my passion alive too. So I think, and that was through talking with a colleague. My colleague Joe recommended it to me. So I think, looking within the company and then also finding, I love education. So I guess there's kind of two streams there.
Totally. And like Liz and Lois said there, I think being able to jump at those opportunities that are given to you and making sure that you're with a company like Trace that does promote that, looking for those opportunities and then jumping towards them and really finding if you like them or finding out what it's really all about for sure.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, and just one more point I'd add to that. So I have a colleague who went into a managerial role. That was the track that she was heading on. And then she stepped back and said, you know what, I don't really like this. I just want to be in my technical area. And it's great to be in a company too, where that's not considered like, oh, you're giving up on your career or you're stepping back. It's just like, no, this is not the place that I really want to spend my energy. So that's, like Liz has said, make sure you find that space that's a company that's going to support those kinds of changes.
Yeah, thank you. So you guys talked a lot about mentorship and having a mentor. And so a few people are talking about how they're actively looking for a mentor and looking for any tips to find one.
So whether you're already working at a company or if you're looking to get into a company, just like informational interviews, you can see if there's anybody who's willing to mentor you a little bit or share their experiences with you. Eco Canada has a great program for helping connect people with mentorship opportunities. And even if the companies that you're at, if they have an open door policy, just go and ask people what they're working on and see if maybe they'll work with you and train you on what you're doing. The way our company was set up, as when I was becoming a project coordinator, I worked under a couple of different project managers. And so they all mentored me so that I could move up and become a project manager one day myself. And then I, in turn, went and mentored the senior staff under me, field staff, on how to do some of the project coordination and project management roles in the office so that you can get more experience with that, or mentoring the technical assistants and the professional assistants so that they can get more exposure to different projects and kind of find the areas that interest them. People that wanted to go into the technical stream would mentor under the technical team and the technical groups on stuff there. And then if you're interested in more managing people or working with people or managing people in the field, you would just talk to people and find your areas of interest and see if there's anyone who's available to mentor you. So just ask around, you'll find someone.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay, we'll start wrapping it up. So which companies or organizations would you recommend for searching for co-ops or volunteering opportunities in the environmental field?
Like that's an easy one, Eco Canada.
Yeah. Plug here. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you know of any other ones, I mean.
Yeah, your university as well, or wherever you're at. I think talking to professors, they'll often have contacts. I stay fairly close with a number of my professors still, who have, where I've been introduced to some great co-ops and some great junior staff who haven't necessarily always ended up at Stantec. Sometimes I have introduced them to other people who I know within the industry too, if, just trying to help them get their foot in the door. Yeah, I think Google, I think there's some great ones, but yeah, Eco Canada we've had a ton of success using it with Stantec at least.
Awesome, that's great to hear. All right, I think that's all the time we have for questions. So thank you so much to all of our amazing panelists for sharing your insights and your tips with us today. Before we head out, I would just like to mention that we do have some upcoming virtual workshops. So as we were talking about technical writing earlier, we do have a technical writing workshop coming up in the fall. So rather than just being an online course, you really get that instructor one-on-one direct face-to-face time. So it's a great option if you're looking to enhance your writing skills. We also have a grant writing proposal workshop coming up as well. So if you're interested in any of our learning opportunities, you can find out more at our website or come to our booth here at the career fair to learn a little bit more or even register. So thank you so much everyone for being here. Thank you to Trace Associates for sponsoring this session and making this discussion possible. This is the last webinar of the day. So if you didn't get a chance to see any of the earlier ones, they will be up for 30 more days. And yeah, make sure you check out all the booths before 4 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time when the event closes. So thank you everyone again and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Talia. Thanks, Brendan.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye. Yeah, you too. Bye, guys.